just like Sam Amick.
Oh.
Who is one of our favorites of all time. All guests coming to you via the Fire Wings hotline. Try one of their delicious flavors of wings today. Fire Wings, just wing it. Good morning, Sam Amick. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Doing just fine. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Sam.
Hi, Dave. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. By the way, I don't think I told you, without your permission, I put your birth name as your contact name in my phone now. So,
well, of course you
did. More and more real. Yes.
Thanks. Although,
is he in the will or what?
I mean, right? Because you wouldn't know if you put Carmichael Dave in your phone. That's just that anal
spelling
writer.
It right though.
Hey, before we get into basketball, I was talking about you earlier on the show. Can you do us a favor, mainly me?
I can. What do you got?
So you work at The Athletic, and it's awesome, and so many real good writers. But I know you do basketball.
Real good, awesome.
Real good, awesome, super writers. I'm a huge fan of The Athletic. But you do basketball. Do you have any football writer friends there that you're ever in contact with?
Not routinely.
Okay.
The first one who comes to mind is Matt Barrows.
All right. We know Matt.
Yeah, okay.
I would
Chad
like
B.
to, I want to find out, Sam, if NFL head coaches and coaching staffs are drug tested. And I don't know who to ask.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't know if you've seen the video of the Eagles coach Doug Peterson from yesterday. If you haven't, I'll text it to you. Or Adam Gase from last year. But I'm really obsessed right now with finding out if coaching staffs actually have to pass league or team mandated drug tests. Actually, I'd like to find that out in the NBA too. But I don't see it as being quite the rampant possible problem that it is in the NFL. To your knowledge, are there any drug restrictions or tests on NBA staffs?
Not to my knowledge, as far as coaches, no.
Okay.
I shouldn't make light of it, but nor, by the way, for former Kings point guards.
Right. Yeah.
No, I don't know the answer to that,
Okay.
but I could, we do have a robust staff, and I'm sure I could send somebody a note and try to get you an answer. But, since you're always supporting The Athletic, Dave, and you brought up football, I will say any Niners fans who want to, dive into Jimmy G material, we had a really good piece on the Niners quarterback the other day. So that's all I got on the football front.
All right. Well, that was Sam Amick. Sam Amick appears every Thursday. Thanks for the call.
I'm also not drug tested, for the record.
I was going to say, well, listen, as you and I both know, if they drug tested in the sports media industry, there'd be like 4 people on a podcast left, so I'm good. Except, and by the way, those 4 people, just to be clear, would be the 4 of us.
Yeah, no, we're all good.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're clean.
I have caffeine in my veins.
There you go. Guilty of that. Sam, we know the league, obviously, if in light of that question, like they never are behind anybody in any kind of drug use, but they're also very anti-fighting. We know that. Last night, there was an interesting moment between Jimmy Butler and T.J. Warren. Never really got to the level of a fight, but it was close. But afterwards, it sure sounds like Jimmy Butler is anxious for the next time they play. All that sounds like talk, but what does the league kind of glean from that when you got a player saying pretty tough stuff in the locker room and then certainly posting stuff later about the next time we play?
I'm curious to see if they do anything, because the one thing that didn't really get talked about, at least from what I saw on social media and other commentary, was that, listen, like I just kind of shared, I'm not trying to advocate violence, but I did love it from a competitive standpoint. Jimmy cracks me up. This is like Jimmy Butler's year of reckoning, where he shows all of us that it wasn't an act last year. He is crazy competitive like Kobe, and if you don't come to his level, he will eat you for lunch, like he did Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. And now we're seeing it on the floor. But the thing that got glossed over was that when T.J. Warren grabs his arm and his shoulder, Jimmy cocked back like he was going to knock him out. And that typically is not received well by the NBA. So that specifically would be the one area that I'm sure Kiki Vandeweghe, who handles the discipline for the league office, or at least spearheads it, that, he's going to be looking at that tape. The talk takes it to another level. The part that made me laugh it was just that Jimmy, I mean, listen, you can read the lips with both the guys, but Jimmy reaches the point where he's just yelling, "I'm tough. I'm tough." Like, it's like it's just the most literal trash talk scene. And then I think he said, it seemed later like he said, "I'm mean." Like, I'm mean.
Right,
and it's just like, all right, man, like, you're going to own it. So, yeah, and listen, TJ didn't back down. I mean, he was calling him trash. And so I admittedly, I got a kick out of it.
So we asked this question when we were talking about the subject earlier. And as always, I like to mention that Sam covers, all the teams, even though he lives here locally. But I think maybe you might have an idea. We saw, and you brought it up, what Jimmy Butler did to Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns, just punked them and then left town. Jason and I and Jay were talking about how the Kings really need somebody.
Well, hold on, let me super fast. I'm going to fill in the gap. You got to properly tell it, Dave. Like, he during practice took himself off of the starting unit,
right?
Out of anger for his starting teammates, put himself on the second unit and said, "I'm still going to kick her, you know what?" And then he did, and they won. I mean, those are the specifics.
And just embarrassed them. So when we're talking about this team, this Kings team, we were saying, we don't know who the dogs are. We don't know who the Zach Randolph type is, the Iman Shumpert even. If Jimmy Butler, your best guess, if Jimmy Butler joined the Kings tomorrow, do you think he would more than likely, A, challenge these guys, bring out the fight in them, and be just the thing they needed to be toughened up, or B, create a situation where guys got punked as bad or worse than what happened in Minnesota?
I'd probably go for the former. I think that the only parallel that would concern me is, like, if you look at De'Aaron and Karl Anthony Towns,
right,
two really talented players, where I think mentally the thing with Karl was kind of like, at the time he was feeling himself as the quote unquote franchise centerpiece, and now you have a veteran coming in who is just more of an alpha male and a better player on both ends of the floor than you are, and that created a tough dynamic. So, would De'Aaron shrivel, or would he kind of get empowered by it? I would like to lean towards the empowerment side, but it would be worth watching, because honestly, like you mentioned, Shumpert, and this is in kind of an outdated read on my part, but like last season, early this season, when there was this occasional narrative that they never quite got over missing what Shumpert brought in the locker room, from that standpoint, that would inspire a pretty serious eye roll on my part, just because, and that's not a disrespect to Iman, but it's just like, if you can't get past that when the guy, I mean, leadership and voice, there's a correlation between that and what that player is bringing on the court. And Iman Shumpert's impact, in all the other ways, far outweighed what he was actually doing on the court. He had some moments, but that did, kind of make me question their overall character as far as this group. But that was a little while ago. Now they're a little bit older. Now I would like to think that they would realize, like, you got to take advantage of chances like that rather than let them, kind of push you back.
Sam Amick from The Athletic joining us here. Sam weekly with us on The Drive. Story I saw last night that I don't know where this is going to go, Sam, in Cleveland, but John Beilein's a rookie head coach. Apparently in the film session yesterday, there was a quote that he had said when watching film with the players that they were no longer playing like a bunch of thugs. That didn't go over very well. I think he has since said, I was trying to use the word slugs. I don't know if that's going over any better. Is this going to become a thing? Is this going to go away? Where is this going to go?
I shouldn't make light of it, but I will. Like, when I heard the story, I was wondering if they had any Santa Cruz alums banana slugs. Yep. The other thing is, like, man, again, big picture, guys, beyond this story, it is pretty wild how so many people within the Cavs organization are going out of their way to throw John Beilein under the bus on a pretty consistent basis. Now, he messed up big time here, but before this story, and he's messed up a lot, but normally this stuff doesn't always get out. our people, Joe Varden, who covers the league nationally but used to be the Cavs beat writer, and then Shams Charania had reported two previous stories. One was that you had the Kevin Love yelling at the Cavs GM Kobe Altman thing, but really Kevin's frustration has been with John Beilein. And then before that, you had a story that just flatly said that John Beilein does not have support in the locker room, and the guys are growing tired of him and his long film sessions, ironically enough. So now you have a really long film session that goes sideways because he says something that obviously comes with so many racial connotations. Super uncomfortable story. I mean, to his credit, he's owning it publicly. This is not sourced. He told ESPN on the record that he made a mistake and that he meant to say slugs and that he called his guys. But it's just, I don't know. I don't have clarity on whether or not something like this could cost him his job this quick. It would be counterintuitive because the guy just got started, but it's been a brutal run for him. And in this league, that type of a headline is going to be really tough to kind of separate, for him to get separated from his reputation. I mean, even with the way he's tried to clean it up, the players in this league hear that you said something like that, it's going to be really hard for them to not feel like there was an element of you saying what you actually meant.
Well, and Sam, it would be impossible for you to know this detail, but knowing Dan Gilbert, I'm very curious if he's talking to lawyers right now, finding out if this could be a fired for cause and trigger morality clauses in Beilein's contract. In other words, giving him a mulligan if they're so sure that Beilein's not the guy, that this would allow Gilbert to save the millions of dollars he'd already owed because I believe John had a 4-year deal. I'm very curious to see what's going to come of this. And when you talk about could he lose his job, not necessarily lose his job completely because of the comment, but also lose his job perhaps because of Dan Gilbert's politics and trying to get out from under that contract.
What am I missing on the politics front?
Meaning, I don't mean politics like in the classic term. I'm saying politics of maybe Gilbert doesn't want Beilein around anymore, and this is his chance to take advantage of the situation. I'm not accusing Dan of anything, but using his business. You hear what I'm saying?
No, I do. I mean, I don't know how Dan sees him at the moment. The first thought that I had was we can't gloss over or forget the fact that with a rebuilding team, the nice thing for Beilein and for all of the Cavs is that a lot of the people in that locker room who are the most angry will not ultimately matter when it comes to the Cavs story in the next 5 years. Now, some of them will, Sexton, Garland, for sure. The young players, where are they at? Have they already decided that this guy is not for them? Because if that's the case, next thing you know, you're having a harder time convincing them to sign a rookie extension, things like that, if you want them to be part of the program. But, the Kevin Love thing is a driving force here as one of the many veterans who it's just, listen, when you win a championship in that same city, within that same organization, and then now you find yourself in this type of an environment, even though you obviously are the one who took the money. You signed a massive contract where, I forget the final number, but I know he's got $90 million for the next 3 seasons combined. It's just a tough contrast of old and new and rebuilding in the context of people who have won chips and people who wanted to be competitive. And a lot of the players, Kevin, most of all, feel like they sold some of them on a bill of goods that they were going to try to compete as opposed to what they've been doing. So a lot of layers to it, but it would still surprise me if they tried to fire him this early.
Okay, so you kind of you segued perfectly because my next question was going to be about Kevin Love. And I actually had a lot of love, for no pun intended, for him when he got public about his anxiety and mental health issues. I thought that was very ballsy of him, and I admire that. But my opinion, Sam, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, he's kind of been a turd. To your point, he signed the contract. And we're seeing a lot of this now where players are signing contracts, get more money with the team, and then slowly force their way out. He signed the deal. He knew the score. And then I'm sure you saw the clip the other day of him calling for the ball and firing it away from Colin Sexton as the clock was running down. And I thought Sexton was doing exactly what he was supposed to do in running down the clock. You're starting to see little tantrums from Kevin Love. That's untenable, correct? They got to get him out of there?
I mean, conceivably, yeah, but I'm writing something today trying to finish it off, looking at guys like Kevin that are going to be talked about leading up to the trade deadline on February 6th. And, I mean, as of now, I don't have anybody painting a picture of an actual option for Kevin Love. Portland gets mentioned the most. I have not gotten any intel from Portland specifically about how they see him. I did have somebody very prominent tied to one of their stars who downplayed it big time, was like, I do not see Kevin Love coming to the Blazers. Now that, I mean, listen, his money he's got so much, he's owed so much money. It's around $28 million this season that the numbers have to work. So Hassan Whiteside of the Blazers is on an expiring deal around the same size. And that's why people talk about Portland so much. But if they don't want him or that's not going to happen, I don't know where it is. Denver has been brought up in the past. I don't think Kevin's helping his case just with the way things have looked the past couple of weeks. And I'm not convinced just yet that he's going anywhere. But he's definitely going to be in the news because it does definitely feel untenable.
Sam Amick from The Athletic with us. Sam, one name that's been instrumental in the postseason for the last couple of years that's still not playing is Andre Iguodala. There's a lot of talk about him still finding a team at some point. You said it, the deadline's just a few weeks away. Where's he going to end up? Is someone going to make a move for Iguodala?
We'll see. I mean, plenty of teams have tried. The Grizzlies front office, and I actually just met their GM a couple weeks ago in Vegas for the first time. Zach Kleiman, he's an attorney, and they've got one of those younger Ivy League type front offices, and they have been very stubborn on the stance that Iguodala should yield them a first round pick, a first round pick in return. And in the absence of that being offered, and remember, they got one from the Warriors for that trade. So there are people within the league who just kind of say, you already got your first by taking on that money, just take a second and move on. But they're not doing that. And I checked with one of Andre's guys just yesterday, said no update. And I don't know what's going to happen there. If he doesn't, I mean, they've been claiming and telling teams that they're not going to buy him out. Now, that's what you have to say leading up to the deadline. Post-deadline, who knows? But then, I don't know, maybe it goes to the summer. I know Mark Stein of the New York Times had reported a while ago that it was a virtual lock for Andre to reunite with the Warriors, which he can do after this season. He can't do that this year. So it seems right now still a lot of uncertainty. The basketball part of, like the fan part of me, as far as just appreciating guys' talents, would love to see this resolved because, Andre is not a young dude. He's 35. I think he has a decent amount of basketball in him left, but, it kind of sucks that he's on the shelf for the whole year.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun to follow you on The Athletic. We always look forward to talking to you each and every week, and we'll talk to you again next Thursday, Sam.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
See you, buddy.
You too.